The founders of Market IRL, Veer Parkash and Samir Arif, will ask a series of questions to Brad Seymour, the president of the Windy City Bulls. With his extensive knowledge, we are looking to learn more about the sports industry and specifically how business has been a major part of his success.
Hey,
Hey guys, sorry
hi.
about that.
All good, all good. Thank you for meeting with us.
Yeah.
Got it.
So,
Remind me, what school do you guys go to?
Stevenson High School. I just want to give a little synopsis what Market IRL is, and then we're basically going to go to the questions. We have
Okay.
about like 25 high school students. A lot of them are at Stevenson, and so they basically have some questions for you. And then what we're going to do, the answers that you give us, we're going to formulate into a mentor article. So those are the articles that we make using mentors that have extensive knowledge in like various industries, but that also connect back to business. So like for example, the sports industry, you still have to have that business knowledge that helps you succeed. So that's kind of what we're here for. So Market IRL is a nonprofit organization. We do free marketing for small businesses. And the way we
Mhm.
do that is we provide students a hands-on experience. That's where the in real life comes from. So what we do is we provide them experience to work with actual businesses to create do the advertising for them. So they do logos, websites, basically everything to help build an online presence for the business.
Mhm.
So the reason why we did this is because a lot of schools, including Stevenson, they lack real life experience. When you go and
Yeah.
apply for a job, what are you going to put on your resume? You can't put I did a theoretical class. All the clubs nowadays are now theoretical, which is why we're giving you students a hands-on experience.
Mhm.
That's kind of basically what Market IRL is. So Samir, do you want to kick it off with the first question?
Yeah, sure. Enough about talking about us. We want to know more about like how you came into the position of the Windy City Chicago Bulls president. What led you, like what steps of your career did you take to end up as the president?
Gotcha. Well, ironically, it started a little bit like what you guys are doing. Back when I was in high school, my summer job was working for a minor league baseball team.
Got it.
And I quickly took on other responsibilities, just little tasks around the office. I would come in on non-game days and just try to absorb as much, knowledge and learning that I could. And so after my freshman year of college, I took my first internship in minor league baseball. It was with a team in South Dakota. I'm originally from Northern California and took an internship again to get the experience. Went back to an internship following my sophomore year and was hired on by the team halfway through that summer. And so that really jump started my career. It accelerated it, but it all started with getting that hands-on experience. I wasn't the best student in terms of sitting in the classroom. I am very good at learning, with my hands, with the experience, and so again, very similar to what you guys are trying to do right now. And so fast forward, by the time I was 25, I was GM of the minor league baseball team. Spent a couple years in that role, and then moved to oversee a team in Los Angeles and ran a team there for 5 years, and then ran a team in Cleveland for 7 years. We were an Indians affiliate there. Then I was contacted by somebody who asked if I wanted to come over and help launch this franchise. And so that's how I made the transition from 21 years in baseball to, now going on 9 years in basketball, and came over in 2016 to start this team.
That's great to hear. And like you mentioned, you did 21 years of minor league baseball. Would you say that you preferred the 21 years of minor league baseball in terms of like your role? Like, did you enjoy it more, or are you enjoying more of the role of basketball?
It the timing in terms of where I was in life worked out really well for my time in baseball.
Mhm.
I can never see myself going back just because the lifestyle is incredibly demanding. And where I am now in my career and what I'm doing and with running this franchise, it's a perfect fit. When I'm in baseball, you're not only doing 70 games, you're doing another 50 to 75 events with this inside the stadium.
Yeah.
Here I only have to work 24 games, manage 24 games, and I don't have to worry about running the facility. So it's toned down in some ways. Day to day, it's pretty much the same job. People ask me, how do you go from baseball to basketball? Really, in minor league sports and sports in general, you can, when you're on the business side, you can move around to different sports because based on what you're doing, it's going to be the same thing. And so that's how I was able to transition very easily to this. But very thankful that I got the experience early on, was able to accomplish and do a lot of things in my career and get involved in doing everything from other events, concerts and festivals to turning around two franchises, making them profitable. So I'm happy with the time I spent there, and I'm happy with what I'm doing now in terms of this stage of my life.
Got it. And then obviously you've been quite successful in turning around your franchises that you've operated in. How do you feel like your marketing efforts? How do you feel that your marketing efforts were successful in terms of turning around the franchise?
It's a couple of different things. When you're in minor league sports, you're from a marketing perspective, you're almost marketing everything but the sport, but the actual play on the field or play on the court. That's ultimately not what's going to sell our tickets, and it's part of the job that I've truly enjoyed. In that, you get to be very creative in coming up with events, reasons for people to want to attend your games. That could be everything from creating a heritage night to the proverbial bobbleheads or giveaways. Those are truly the reasons why people are going to come to your games in a lot of cases. There's certainly a small percentage of fans that are, hardcore sports fans, and that's why they're here. But from a marketing perspective, if you ever see, the advertising campaigns that we put out for this team, for example, we never mention the opponent. We never mention, necessarily a player. It's always what the theme is. It's always what the bobblehead is. It's always, what's going on almost off the court. And there's a couple of reasons for that. We can't really promote players specifically, even if we have a really popular player, because at a moment's notice, he could be called up to the NBA. And so you're left, holding the bag, and you don't have him here to actually play if you've promoted him. And then it goes back to what I said earlier. We have to identify what's important to the community, what's important, what's going to be a draw. And so that's where we get creative in terms of coming up with the different events. And ultimately, that's what we promote. We get very hyper focused in terms of, who we're marketing to. We do a lot of digital marketing, and we're focused on different demographics throughout the region. The other thing that we do, and this was a learning process for me, is we really only focus on about 10 to 15 miles around this arena. There's something upwards of over 1 million people within that radius. And we have found that most of our fans come from that geographic area. When we first started, I was trying to do and be all things to all people throughout the suburbs, and it just stretched us way too thin. And so from a marketing perspective, we're hyper focused and focused on, again, the events and promotions that we come up with.
Got it. Thank you for that input. It was really interesting when you said, like when I had the idea of a sports team, I thought that you were trying to like appeal to everyone, but it's interesting in the census here that you're trying to appeal to your 10 to 15 range miles because those are your real target audience. Those are going to come to the game.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we are a local franchise, and somebody from, I don't know, Joliet isn't going to drive all the way here to go to a game, or if they do, it's a very rare instance.
Yeah, and then you mentioned you felt that your digital marketing strategy was like the most important factor in your marketing. Could you discuss more about like your overall digital marketing strategy?
So I'm admittedly not a huge expert in this because I don't do much on social media and whatnot. I leave that to other people, but we do heavy paid social media marketing, and on the various platforms. And again, it depends on what we're promoting. So, if we're doing I don't know, opening night, we're doing Blues Brothers bobblehead. It's for a movie. So we're targeting movie buffs. We're targeting people who have identified as fans of that movie. So you got that. And then, we're doing a Kobe White bobblehead. where that one we will focus on Bulls fans or people who have identified it as basketball fans, in addition to families and that type of demographic. So it really depends on what you're doing, and our ad agency is able to get hyper focused in terms of identifying those different demographics. Obviously, digital marketing has become very, very sophisticated, and we all see it in our daily lives. And if you mention something or you see something on TV and suddenly you start getting fed those ads, there's a reason for that. And so our agency does a really good job of feeding our information and putting it in front of people who are more apt to react to it, versus somebody who may see it and just go on by.
Got it. And then my last question before we get into Veer's questions is that Chicago is a very broad sports city. You got the Chicago Cubs, the Chicago Bulls, for example. You got all these Chicago cities. How do you distinctly identify and market towards the Chicago Windy City Bulls?
Goes back a little bit to just focusing on our immediate community, and again, segmenting the different demographics to create events for what different people are going to respond to. When all is said and done at the end of the season, most people are going to come to one, maybe two games, in terms of the vast majority of our audience. And so, we create an event that makes them want to come to something specific, and that'll be their only visit to us. So that's one of the things. We do get some support in terms of hitting basketball fans from the Chicago side. They have one of the biggest, obviously, social media reaches in all of sports. And so they, whenever we get mentioned or whenever there's player movement back and forth and we get mentioned on those platforms, we certainly see a little bit of an uptick sometimes in terms of whether we're getting, a first round draft pick's going to play for us. Maybe we sell a few tickets because of that type of thing. But for what we do and for what our budget is, we're really just focused on our immediate market and running various campaigns. So we will, for example, launch a campaign about 2 weeks prior to a game date. That's when you'll start seeing stuff, because we have learned most people are going to make their purchasing decisions within that window. For example, right now we're about 3-ish weeks away from our home opener. We're running kind of an evergreen campaign, just targeting families, promoting our family packs, and just kind of reminding people, hey, we're here, we're coming back. And so that's really focused on families. We call it, we're focused on moms. A lot of cases, mom will make the decision for what a family does. And so we're just kind of dripping out a campaign over these next few weeks before we launch directly into promoting opening night, and targeting families that way.
And then Veer, you had some of your questions?
Yeah, so I've heard you touch up kind of like about incentives. So when you guys market, for example, the bobbleheads or the themes, those are the incentives for the fans. So how do you know what the fans like? How do you know what incentives you should bring to them?
It's some of it's a little bit of guesswork. Some of it's, learning. We, for example, we've come up with, well, really, I think since the beginning, we've hosted what we used to call Dynasty Night. So that was honoring the championship teams. It was, bringing out memorabilia. It was doing some sort of giveaway tied into the championship teams. And that resonated. And that's grown into one of our biggest events of the season. We launched 3 years ago. We started doing a Space Jam night. People responded in a big way to that. And that's become one of our anchor events the first weekend in January. So you do, some of it's just testing the market and seeing what people react to. And, not all of them are home runs by any means, but the last few years we've tried to lean on some of the more popular players in Chicago, maybe do a bobblehead or something related to them. And again, we see people respond to that. Our heritage nights have become massive for us. So this year, for example, we have 4 heritage nights. We have a Greek heritage, Filipino, Hispanic, and Polish. And those have grown significantly, with the exception of Greek. This will really be the first year for that. The others have grown significantly. They started small, and then we just keep adding things to them based on feedback we get from fans, feedback we get from stakeholders in those communities, and we're just able to grow those events year over year. So it's a little bit of testing. It's a little bit of just kind of seeing what are the hot trends in sports. What are the hot trends in terms of giveaways? We're doing a pickleball paddle giveaway this year because we want to tap into the incredible popularity about pickleball right now.
Yeah.
We're actually going to be running a tournament. The finals are going to take place on our court after a game. So that's something brand new. Have no idea if we're going to sell 1,000 registrations or if we're going to sell 2, but we're going to try it. And we have different people within the pickleball community that we're leaning on to kind of steer us in the right direction. And when it comes to designing that type of an event.
Got it. And then you mentioned how some of your players kind of like sell the tickets for themselves, like the bottleheads and stuff. How, besides like selling bottleheads, how can you utilize, let's say, like a popular player in like your digital social media campaign, whether that's like interviewing them or asking them like funny questions or just like anything that allows them to exemplify their character?
So it's a great question. It's something that we're trying to get better at. And that really goes to trying to enhance our social media platforms. So that wouldn't necessarily fall under like paid media. That would be more kind of the human interest or, just giving some background information on players or behind the scenes type of thing. And we're trying to get better in terms of the people that oversee that for us are really trying to get better. It's about building a relationship with the team so they trust you. It's about building relationships with the players and they become more open to doing things like that. But it's certainly a work in progress. Some guys are better than others in terms of responding to that type of thing. But we also know that type of thing resonates. It's funny, the things that get the best metrics on our social media are basketball highlights and that type of thing, because the majority of our fans following us are basketball fans, and they're from around the world and certainly from this area. So our social media tends to be a little bit more basketball heavy because we see the best metrics with that, and then we sprinkle in hey, it's bobblehead night this weekend or that type of thing. But it's kind of separate strategies for both in terms of what we're paying in terms of marketing and what our internal team and social media team are doing on a day-to-day basis to promote the actual basketball side.
Got it. And then just a couple of questions about in terms of like marketing for in terms of like getting like your most loyal fans. You have a question?
Oh yeah. So you touched up on social media. Do you think in general for business, social media is going to be one of the most useful ways to market a business?
I think it is, and I think it's become that because it does provide so many different ways to promote a business. You can be as creative as you can be or as you want to be. So I think social media has become a huge marketing tool that companies use, and it's a way to communicate with your customers in a way that's never been done before these platforms rolled out. So it's an important part of our business in terms of how we communicate with our fans and whatnot. Again, more leaning towards the basketball fan and that type of thing. But for business in general, absolutely, it's probably the number one thing you can be doing in terms of getting your messaging out there.
Got it. And then going back to my question is obviously how is this idea of like your merchandise sales in terms of like your jerseys that you're selling and your apparel and all this, how can this be tied back to your marketing strategies? How can you like increase your merchandise sales based on your marketing?
Gosh, it's about driving ticket sales. Ticket sales ultimately will drive the rest of our business, whether it's sponsorships, sponsors that want to get in front of those eyeballs, whether it's driving merchandise sales, whether it's driving concession sales. But specifically with merchandising, that goes back to you got to be creative. You got to be on top of what the trends are, whether it's fashion trends, whether it's things that are popular right now with sports fans, and you have to be up to date in terms of what people want. You have to be smart about. We'll carry, because we're a winter sport, we'll carry sweatshirts,
Yeah.
and we carry a lot of those for obvious reasons. So, but you also have to be creative with your designs. You have to be, you can offer limited edition things that make people react, I think, a little bit quicker. But ultimately, it's about driving the ticket sales, which then get people into the arena, which then get people into your store to buy the merchandise.
Got it. And then just one little question for a little follow-up question about some advice you would give. You mentioned that you kind of had the same ideology as us, the idea of taking initiative and like not going through simulations. What advice could you give to students who are interested in maybe pursuing business or pursuing sports in business to like in terms of like how they can get their career started in business?
Get experience, however, which way you can. You don't have to wait until college. The other thing I did when I was in high school, because I originally wanted to be a sports broadcaster, I got an internship at a TV station in the Bay Area. And so again, was able to get, some really good early experience. But in my mind, and this is whether you're in high school, whether you're in college, it is about getting the experience so you understand, in this case, what the sports industry is about. You get a taste of it. You understand what we do on a day-to-day basis. You understand if it's something that you're going to like. But that could go for any type of industry that you want to go into. It is about getting that initial experience, but the first step is also reaching out to people. It's no different. I get hit up every day by students, asking for advice, asking for doing things like what you guys are doing. Or I talk to college classes, and it's always the same thing. You reach out to people. LinkedIn has become a powerful tool, because you can connect with a lot of people, and you never know who's going to respond. So, title and that type of thing doesn't matter. You should be trying to build your own personal network. And that can start as early as high school, by getting your foot in the door. I don't know if there's companies out there, we don't do it, but, volunteering or just trying to get a little bit type of experience that way. But leaning on some of those resources that you may have just, right next to you to get the experience, is really critical. And then obviously you're doing that, and then you're parallel to that, you're also getting your education.
All right. So you've been pretty successful to date. What is like one struggle that you've had to face, and like how did you overcome it in the sports industry? Like, have you ever had any like hiccups or bumps that have been hard?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, more than I can remember. One of the biggest challenges that I had, and at the time it was very daunting. When I was running the team in Cleveland, I was with the ownership group, also owned the team in Southern California. And about a year into my time in Cleveland, they put me back in charge of the team in LA. And so I split my time between the two, running two minor league franchises in completely different markets, completely different situations in terms of financial. And so, I kind of learned as I went in those cases. I had to learn to trust people. I made mistakes in terms of, maybe hiring the wrong person to do something, and, you have to try to overcome something like that. But, running two separate companies, that was a massive challenge, and certainly made a lot of mistakes. I've made, a ton of mistakes in terms of, going back to just building promotions or building events. I've had, numerous flops with that type of thing. It's all part of the job. You can't be afraid to fail. And thankfully, I've worked for people who understand that and allow me and the staff that I work with to try new things. They encourage it, and we're not afraid to screw up or learn from that and try to do something else. So I think that's just part of growing in business. If you haven't made any mistakes, I don't think you're trying, and it's about learning from those mistakes and figuring out how they're going to benefit you moving forward.
I really like what you said about trying new things, because ultimately, like, we're never gonna experience and grow if we never step out the door and learn new things. So I really appreciate what you said there.
Yep.
Um, Overall, we're done with our questions. Just wanted to thank you again for meeting with us. Your input was like really helpful, and we look forward to just talking about it and like reflecting on just
Good.
we've learned, and we look forward to it. And from the bottom of me and Veer, we just want to say thank you for meeting with us.
You
Um,
got it. Appreciate it. And feel free to reach out if there's any follow-up questions.
yeah, of course.
All right.
Um, Thank you. Have a good rest of your day.
Thanks, guys. See ya.
All right,
Bye.
see ya. Bye.